So welcome back. I want to take a moment here to walk you through MyAccountingLab and how to find all the resources that you need there. Now, first of all, let's talk about registration. This is a TCC Plus or Inclusive Access course, which means that your registration or your access code for MyAccountingLab and for the ebook were paid for with your tuition. So you don't need to pay for any of those. The registration instructions are right here where it says MyAccountingLab or registration instructions. Now, when we open this document up, you'll notice that there's two instructions. So first of all, it says you will either register through Blackboard or through Pearson MyLab with a course ID. You are not registering through Pearson MyLab with a course ID. If you email me and ask me for a course ID, I'm going to tell you you didn't watch the orientation video and you're not following instructions. Since our courses are linked, it is imperative that you only access MyAccountingLab through this link here in Blackboard. So when you click this link in Blackboard, unfortunately, I can't walk you through the registration process because I'm already registered. But when you open this link, the first thing that will ask you to do is to either log in or create an account. So if you've ever used a Pearson MyLab product before, you already have an account, you'll want to log in with that. Otherwise, create an account. Then it'll take you to screen and they'll give you three options. They'll say you can either use the 14-day free trial, you can enter your credit card number, or you can enter an access code. You want to enter an access code. You're going to enter this code right here exactly as it is printed. If you have an error message, first thing is double check that you entered it exactly correct. If that still doesn't work, then you got to contact tech support. Unfortunately, I can't fix it for you. So once you've gotten into MyAccountingLab, you won't have to go through that process again. Every time you click on the link, it will just take you in. So let's walk through it. So first thing is when we click on this link, we notice there's MyAccountingLab and Mastering Course Home and Pearson announcements. If Pearson has any planned downtimes or if you're experiencing trouble with Pearson and you think it may be down, click this link and see if they've posted an announcement. Otherwise, we're going to go straight into the Pearson MyLab and Mastering. So it's going to open in a new window. You want to make sure that you have your pop-up blockers turned off. If you are using Safari as your internet browser, you will probably need to change your security settings. If you get a subscription error, then there's nothing wrong with your subscription. You just need to change your security settings. So you'll want to make sure that you go through and do that. I always just Google Pearson MyLab Safari subscription error and it tells you how to do it. So when you get into Pearson, MyAccountingLab, it's going to look something like this, very similar. I get to be the instructor and you don't, so it's going to look something like this. The first thing you want to look is the e-text. Now you do have the e-text. You have that free with your account. If you would prefer to use a physical book, that is certainly an option. I'm going to switch my webcam over to me right quick. So the textbook that we are using looks like this. It is the Horngren's Financial and Managerial Accounting 7th edition. Now, if you're buying this or renting this online because you prefer a physical textbook, then make sure that it says the managerial chapters because the financial book looks exactly like this, but it says the financial chapters instead of the managerial chapters. So just make sure that you're getting the managerial section. Now, the textbook is new this semester. The 7th edition is new as of fall 2020. So they're really expensive out there. You may have a hard time finding one. If you happen to find a 6th edition, then by all means use that one if it's significantly cheaper. There really were not very many changes made between the 6th and 7th edition. The only difference is the way the chapters are numbered. So because we use a combined book, the 6th edition, the managerial accounting chapter started in chapter 16, and in this book, they're starting in chapter 1. So you'll just kind of have to do the math, like chapter 16 is chapter 1, chapter 17 is chapter 2, and so on and so forth. But definitely, if you can save a few dollars by using the old edition, by all means, go for it. So let's jump back to the MyAccountingLab here. Now under assignments, you notice there's two tabs. There's do homework and take test quiz. So let's look under do homework. You'll notice you have a DSM and a homework for almost every chapter. There's a couple of chapters that don't have a DSM, but almost every chapter has a DSM and a homework. So let's jump into one of these, and I just want to show you some of the features. Let's say that we're in MyAccountingLab here, and we're going to randomly choose a question. All right, And so here we're asked to do some data, and I realize you don't know, or to make some journal entries. I realize you have no idea what we're doing, and that's okay. I'm just going to make some things up, and I'm going to press check answer. It's going to say, I'm sorry, you were wrong. But notice that I got some things correct, and what I got correct, it froze. It won't let me go back and change the things that I got correct. Okay. So I'm going to change some more things. I'm going to press check answer a second time. It's going to say, I'm sorry, you're still wrong. And now I'm going to press it a third time and it says final check. Now that sounds ominous, but it's really not. Remember, you get unlimited attempts on the homework. So the idea is you're going to work these until you get them completely correct. So I'm going to press final check and it's going to say, I'm sorry, you were still wrong, but would you like to work a similar question? So this is going to give me a brand new question with brand new data, and I can go through and work it, and I can do this as many times as I want until I get it correct. Now, if I'm really not sure how to do this, I can come up here to question help. Notice it gives me a help me solve this. Some of the other questions have different things on it. Help me solve this is a very similar question that walks you through step by step how to do it, and it even has you practice it, and you can go through and work those out. There's also an Ask My Instructor link. The Ask My Instructor link will send me a picture of what you've entered, and you can put in your question. Usually this is good for when you've worked a problem. Let's say you're doing a balance sheet and it's not balancing and you really can't figure out what you've done wrong. You secretly think maybe MyAccountingLab's wrong or whatever. Usually it's something simple like you've transposed some numbers or things like that, but you've worked at this problem for so long you can't see that. So you can click Ask My Instructor, or you can really just email me and say, Chapter 3, Question 7, I'm having trouble with. I can log in and see all of your homework and exactly what question you were given and what you did, what you've entered, and all of that. So you don't have to try to type out the entire question for me. So as you work through your homework, I'm going to get out of this. Yes, I want to. Let's go back and look at the DSMs. So if you've done Learn Smarts before in maybe another class, then that's similar to how a DSM works. A DSM is a flashcard type of system. So the idea is they're going to ask you some questions, and then they're going to ask you to assess your level of confidence. So again, I realize you don't know the answer to these, but hopefully you will by the time you finish Chapter 1. So which is not an indirect material. I'm going to say would. If I click it one time, notice it just fills in the circle halfway, which says I'm unsure. If I click it a second time, it says I am sure. So I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to press submit. It says, yay, I was sure and I'm correct. So notice I get a dark green bar up here. Let's go to the next question. It says, which of the following is a direct cost of manufacturing an automobile? I think it's tires, but I'm really not exactly sure, so I'm going to leave it halfway colored. And notice I get a light green bar. So the idea is you want dark green bars all the way through. If you just keep saying that you are unsure, then you're never going to finish, okay? You have to be confident. Now, what you want to be careful of is you want to make sure that you're right before you're confident, because I'm going to say, I think this is the right answer, and I'm really, really sure. And oh goodness, I was sure and I was wrong. So now I have a dark red bar. Now I'm going to have to answer a lot of questions and be confident in those to get rid of this dark red bar. So the idea is you want to work this until you get all the way through and get dark green bars. I've asked students in the past how they prefer to do the DSMs. A lot of students prefer to do them at the very end after they've done the homework, kind of as a check, kind of as a refresher to make sure that they don't have any gaps in their learning. Some students like to do them before the homework, but a lot like to do them at the end. So when we get to where we have tests, the test will be under this link. We don't have any in there right now because they're not available to you. Under results, you'll be able to see your grades in your grade book, but remember, this is not the official grade book. So please don't look under there and say, oh yay, I have an A, because these grades aren't weighted. You only want to look in Blackboard under the official grade book. The study plan is a really powerful tool. The study plan creates a customized plan for you based on what you do and don't know. So this is a really fantastic way to study for the test. So first of all, I want to point out though, you notice it starts with F1. This is chapter 1, financial accounting. So you want to skip those. You want to scroll all the way down, go over here to all chapters, and you want to scroll all the way down to where it starts talking about M1. These are the managerial chapters. You notice they're broken out by objective. You'll be able to know which objectives we do and don't cover based on those videos on the YouTube channel. So if we skipped an objective, then you don't need to worry about it. But let's say that we covered objective 1 in chapter 1, which we do. So you'll notice that there's a quiz me and then there's practice questions. I like to start with the quiz me. If you get all of these correct, then it's like, oh good, you probably know what you're doing, you can move on. But if you miss some of these, then these practice questions start filling in, and you can just keep working these practice questions until you've mastered the objective. So the great thing about the study plan is it really forces you to practice the things that you don't know, because we are not really good at assessing what we do and don't know most of the time. So the study plan really helps us with that. Now I want to go back up here to the e-text for a moment. It is so super important that you read the book. And again, I've talked about this. I want to switch on my camera here so I can look you in the eye when I say this. I talked about this for those of you who took me for financial accounting, but for those of you that didn't, the way that we learn, cognitive research, which is research about how people learn, tells us that we need to see something 5 times before we've really learned it. So that's a lot. So what that means is, number 1, we need to read the chapter before we start the lesson. Now, I know it's a boring book. You're going to read the chapter and think, I got nothing out of that. I can't tell you anything that I just read. It meant nothing to me. But it really did, because then when you go watch the videos, the way our brains work is there's 2 hemispheres of our brains like this, right? When our brains are presented with new information, one side of your brain starts firing these electrical responses called synapses, and the other side of your brain is trying to fire back. When they fire back and they make a connection, then learning has happened. What happens with accounting is that either your brain is it's reaching back in its recesses to pull forward some information. It's like, yeah, I got nothing, okay? Because you don't know anything about what we're doing in managerial accounting. So your brain pulls forward nothing. Or as we learned in financial accounting, your brain is pulling forward some erroneous information, like it thinks debit means we spent money, right? And so then you start forming incorrect fingers. So by reading the book first, it's almost like if you stretched before you went and ran. Now when you start listening to the videos, now when your brain is reaching back in its recesses and its file cabinet to try to pull forward that information, it has information to pull forward. It can say, oh yeah, I remember seeing that term. Oh yeah, I remember seeing that diagram. I remember reading that. It's not that you can recall the information, but it's that your brain has it stored. So now it can fire back, and this side can fire, and learning can start to occur. And you can actually see learning on a brain scan, because the fingers that your brain actually starts to grow fingers. Now, what happens though is if you don't use this information, those fingers will shrink back up. Have you ever noticed that you can learn words to a song that you don't even like? It's because of the repetition, because you're constantly repeating it. So what happens a lot of times to students is, let's say that you sit down on Sunday and you're like, I'm going to power through my homework, and you read and you listen to the videos and you do the homework and you do the DSMs and you're like, I got this. And then you don't do any more accounting until next Sunday when you sit down to power through again. Well, all of the fingers that you had started forming last Sunday, now they've all shrunk, because your brain has gone, oh, it's been 6 days since you've used this information. I'm ditching it. It's clearly not important. But those song lyrics that you keep hearing on the radio, those are really important. So I need to commit those to memory, right? Unfortunately, we can't tell our brain what to keep and what to discard. So it's going to discard whatever you're not using. So the real key here is that you need to do a little bit of accounting every day. If you go more than about 24 hours without using this, your brain is going to start ditching it, and those fingers are actually going to start shrinking back in your brain. So doing a little bit every day. So maybe on Monday you read the book. The videos, that usually there's 3 to 4 per chapter. So maybe you watch the videos then on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and you take notes and you really engage with the content and you work the problems and all that. Then maybe on Friday you do half your homework, and Saturday you do half your homework, and then Sunday you just do the DSM as like a palate cleanser, as a refresher. Okay. Maybe your schedule is such that you really don't have time to spread it out like that, and you really do have to do most of your work on Sunday. But even if you can just spend 10 minutes a day, the research shows 10 minutes a day, you will at least keep the fingers formed. So maybe you can't watch a whole video, but you can watch part of one. Even if you'll just do a little bit every day, that's better than just doing nothing. And then you'll save yourself so much time, because now you don't have to go back and relearn chapter 1 as well. So I hope you learn a lot this semester. I hope that you really engage with the content. This is difficult content. I know that this is difficult content. A lot of students find it even more difficult than financial accounting, and I don't say that to scare you, but I say that to kind of prepare you. A lot of us were able to get by in financial accounting because we were pretty good at memorizing things, and we could memorize debits are on the left and credits are on the right, and this is how you do a journal entry, and these are the accounts that go on which financial statement, and we could memorize our way, but we didn't really understand it. Managerial accounting isn't that way. You can't memorize your way out of it. You have to really understand the content. You have to really understand the material. So it requires a deeper level. When we talk about the theory of knowledge and the hierarchy of learning, the base level is kind of just memorize, and then there's application, and then there's understanding. So we're really working up in those application and understanding standpoints. So what that means also is you can't just jump into the homework and start trying to power through it, because you may figure out how to work that one problem, but you didn't understand the concept. And when you get to the test, guess what? That's not the problem I'm going to ask. And so you're not going to be able to do it on the test because you didn't really understand the problem. So really try to engage in the content this semester. I want to have these discussions on this discussion board. I want you to pop into the office hours and ask your questions and really engage with it. And I hope that you learn a lot and maybe enjoy a little bit of it too.